All the premiers and the prime minister out of the country at this point in time. All the leadership gone. The only person hanging out is Anita Anand. So I don't even think she knows it. I'm just kidding. I don't even know if she's here. So that's interesting, right? Carney, there's an opportunity there, don't you think? Carney is being placed, and that's interesting because it's obvious that he's not liked, and it seems more obvious day by day, and yet they're still going to place him. So it's an interesting situation. It's similar to what Trump was talking about yesterday. They're stealing. We caught them stealing, yet these judges want us to let them keep stealing. That seems crazy. And yeah, it seems like we're all aware of what's going on, and they just want us to sit back and allow it. And well, it's Canada, so we just might. Only one leader is calling for the return of plastic straws in Canada, and that's Maxime Bernier. I haven't heard Carney call for a return for plastic straws. The Ostrich farm, I've got an update for you there, and it's from Viva Fry, and he says, well, he's not happy about things. There's a court date this week, so I think it's this week, so that's interesting. Trump says Ukraine war's almost over. Rutte saying Russia is going to attack NATO any day now, so just wait for the false flag. Trump says the government is giving kickbacks. We have to start in the United States because there's a whole bunch of stories that I've got updates to that touch the United States. BIOLABS is one of them. Tulsi Gabbard's confirmed. RFK's confirmed. So there's a whole bunch of really, really big stories. And a lot of the stories of kickbacks and things like that, I think, extrapolate all the way out to Canada. I think that we're living through the same stuff. In the United States, a lot of it was open and in the books, and you could see it. All you had to do was look, and people just dismissed it, didn't believe it, or followed people like Mike Benz, who went through it with a fine-tooth comb and did interviews and said, can you believe what these people are doing? And so that's interesting, right? It's interesting how in Canada, too, it's open and it doesn't seem to matter. Like we're not able to bring this government to heel, and that's interesting, right? It's something that is very concerning. Like we have a prime minister who's passed laws to prevent us from being able to develop our natural resources. We've got a prime minister who's trying to pass censorship laws. We have 11, at least up to 50, I've heard, Chinese-placed MPs in the House of Commons, and we've known this since 2023, and yet all of these laws that are damaging to Canada gets passed, these laws that damage our production get passed, these laws that damage food prices, food stability, all sorts of stuff. And we're just expected to sit back and allow it to continue. It's really weird. Even if you have proof of something, you can show people, and they get upset, but it doesn't go wide until, I don't know, some mainstream media picks it up. And even then, right, even if like the Toronto Sun picks it up, because that has happened, you shine light on something and it gets kind of media attention, but it doesn't then translate into broader media attention to the whole nest. I mean, you can look at what's going on with DOGE UK right now with Charlotte. There are a whole bunch of people. Spectator UK built a search engine to search their equivalent US aid or governing or Global Affairs Canada. And they're kind of undermining Charlotte's work while stealing it and now writing newspaper articles about it because it's popular. But before that, there's been no amplification, right? And before Elon Musk really started shining a light on things, the last 20 days or so, right? It's been 3 weeks. Nobody cared. So it's really, really interesting. And I think it extrapolates out to Canada. And I think it's worth spending some time on. So that's where we're going to start. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Elon Musk says any given law will do the opposite of its name. The one this guy wants to pass is called taxpayer protection, which means that its real goal is giving taxpayers the shaft. What he really cares about is hiding the biggest scam in human history. And Representative Sean Castian says, last week I introduced a bill with Representative Haley Stevens to prevent Elon Musk from accessing U.S. citizens' private data. So they're saying, oh no, Elon Musk is going to access the private data. Meanwhile, he's exposing all of the corruption. Speaking of corruption, here's President Trump. And when President Trump was first elected, I was on board. I wanted to see arrests that weekend. I was like, I can't wait. Let's go. And the thing, I was disappointed. And a lot of people used the fact that there were no arrests as a proof that Donald Trump was not the right guy. I think, and I actually didn't necessarily want arrests. I just wanted to have Donald Trump or somebody like him with authority come out and explain to people what is happening, because people just didn't believe it. What I didn't understand is that having Trump come out and explain it, well, they just lampoon him as crazy, like absolutely crazy. So this works better. Anyway, here's Donald Trump laying out the fraud that's been committed on the American people, and by extrapolation, the fraud that's ongoing right now in the Canadian government, in the Australian government, in the UK government, all across the board. They are doing this in their own countries with different versions of all of this stuff, and it's out in the open, and nobody's interested in covering it. It's really, really interesting. All of this is interesting. Here's Donald Trump.
That you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our Attorney General. There's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them because there's a massive fraud that's taken place.
It's a scale up. They're scaling it up to make sure they can cover the whole government at speed. Because you get 12 people, that's a bottleneck, right? If you have 12 people, you have to go through the audit of all of US aid, and then you finish that up and you finish all the paperwork, and then you start the next one. That's a huge bottleneck, right? Whereas if you duplicate the team, now you've got double. Duplicate it again, now you've got, again, double, and again, and so on and so forth. And now your capacity is such that you can crunch through the numbers much faster, right? They're scaling it up. It's not, they don't want to get bogged down. And you don't see this in government very often, right? So this is, it's interesting to watch because they're systemically trying to, well, I'll show you what they say they're trying to do in just a second. Steve says, I don't want exposure anymore. I want mass arrests. We're still at discovery. Like, we're not at the fun part yet. And I was saying to my friend said, where's the arrest, man? Like, he was disaffected. He was like, I am not happy with all this. I went for lunch yesterday. Best French fries in Guelph at the airport, by the way, the airport cafe. Anyways, I digress. He was saying, I want arrests. I said, I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They snuck Elon in by Trump repurposing an old agency, right? And so Elon got to work on day one and everything was hunky-dory, right? He's ready to go, and he's full blasters, right? And I said, once RFK gets confirmed, Tulsi gets confirmed, Kash Patel gets confirmed, then things are really going to, this is going to really be crazy. It's going to be head spinning, I think. And so yesterday, RFK was confirmed and Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed, and I think Kash Patel's on deck. So, and I don't know if it's today. People were saying that this week, but I think things will really start to get rocking and rolling. Oh, Pam Bondi, that was the other one, the Attorney General. She's been confirmed, and she's now going after leakers from the FBI who are leaking ICE raids. So, I mean, it's really interesting what's going on to try and get a handle on the criminality that's been let run rampant in the United States. It's interesting watching these people who actually care and who are trying to stop it active, right? And it's going to be really interesting. Anyway, Steve says the mystery of how politicians enter Congress at $160,000 a year and exit as multimillionaires has finally been solved. Trump is saying kickbacks. We're going to read you the names of all the people getting kickbacks from U.S. government, U.S. aid, and all sorts of other sources. And so Elon Musk says, and this is a minute-long explanation of what's going on and how difficult it was to do this until you had some technology to help you. Otherwise, it all gets buried in bureaucracy, right? Otherwise, it all gets buried behind people who will lie to you, but the numbers don't lie, or the numbers have a harder time of lying anyway. Elon says the White House now has tech support. The Matrix is being reprogrammed to make success one of the possible outcomes. They did not expect this. Komarashi Maru. So what Kirk did in the reboot of Star Trek was he reprogrammed the Kobayashi Maru. If you don't know Star Trek lore, which is being quoted here, is that Kirk was the only one to defeat the Kobayashi Maru experiment or test. And the Kobayashi Maru is to test a captain's ability to make an impossible decision. You have to order somebody to their death, and you know it's going to be their death, or you have to kill everybody or something like that. It's a no-win situation. And Kirk says, I reject that. I'm going to substitute a win situation for your no-win situation. And he reprograms the Kobayashi Maru. That's what Musk is talking about. So he went into the machine, reprogrammed it, and now the left is losing their mind because he's taking their money and changing it to his means, his ends. That's what he's doing. He's saying, I've Kirked you, right? So interesting Star Trek reference. It keeps coming up. Everybody's going to be eating chocolate cereal soon. Here is, I don't know who this guy is. It's referenced Mario Knopfel, who's being referenced by Elon Musk, shared this. Oh, Joe Lonsdale. That's who this is. But I've never heard of Joe Lonsdale before. But I liked this video yesterday, so we'll watch it. Here we go.
I have mentors in the Reagan administration who came in looking for these things, and those people were not technical. And so when they went to the bureaucracy and they asked questions, there's so many ways of obscuring and blocking and deterring. And so what Elon did is he got root access, and he went to the tech systems themselves. No one has done this in ever. Like, no president ever has had tech people around him. And they went to the systems, and they started finding things like, oh my goodness. And these people who work for the agencies try to confront them and say, no, you can't look at the systems. You're getting around all of our ability to block all this stuff. We thought you'd never actually get to see any of this. And they're freaking out because they're looking. And so it's very transparent. They went to the systems. They actually saw the payments, and the payments were going out to crazy shit. There were payments to people with same social security numbers. There are payments to people with no social security numbers to 100 billion. There's it's everywhere. There's payments to Internews Network, which is training media all around the world how to have a certain point of view that's a very left point of view. There are payments to protesters around the world. There's like all this stuff that's crazy, and they're being very transparent. Yes, we went to the data and we found it. It's only been 20 days. Like, give them a chance. They're gonna put all of this out. They already are putting a lot out. I mean, I think this is amazing, but people want to slow them down. They want to slow them down from stopping their grift is really the biggest question here.
He said that presidents haven't had tech people around them, and that's wrong. That's incorrect. Do you know which president had lots of tech people around him? Lots of drones too. Lots of drone bombs in the Middle East. Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a very techie president. Very, very techie president. They built a system, and if you listen, I listened to Rachel Maddow. I know I was a lefty for a while. Up to 2015, right? And then Pizzagate happened, Trump happened, and the world went bonkers. And I opened my eyes. Pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, Barack Obama built a system, and they knew he built a system. The whole democratic machine knew he built a system that relied on very techie things. And the systems they built were probably illegal. And I think they knew that it was probably illegal. I think they made jokes on Rachel Maddow about how it was probably illegal. But it was an open secret. Excuse me. I don't usually clear my throat on camera, so apologies. But they typically, or back in 2008, they knew, 2009, they knew what they were building. They knew the Yes We Can movement, all that stuff, exploited Facebook and other new social media, exploited ways of communicating with people, exploited email lists. And now, fast forward, 2008 to 2012, and then even 2012 to 2013, there weren't very many. Well, it wasn't until the right wing started utilizing the same tactics against the left that the speech protections and the speech stuff came down, right? And so that's interesting. But Barack Obama, he was a very, very techie president. And if you go back and look at what they were saying, it's pretty eyebrow raising, and maybe Donald Trump's going to expose it. Here is Lee Zedlin, and he's talking about how the past EPA head and all of the other people who were involved in collaborating with Citibank, et cetera, threw gold bars off the Titanic in order to protect themselves from a Trump administration. And I explained to my friend yesterday, it had to be this way because it was a strategy. Trump came into the first administration and he head faked them. He didn't do anything. He didn't investigate anything. He acted like Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. He allowed the deep state to dictate his cabinet. He allowed the deep state to infiltrate his transition team. He just kind of let them run things as if they would run things, as usual, and he mapped them out. But he didn't investigate them. So they thought they could do stuff like this and get away with it, because the first time when he came in, it looked like he didn't even know to investigate them. So they thought these things will be easy, right? We'll take it from here and we'll put it over here. Here it's in the government's control, and over here it's in our control under the EPA, which Trump didn't look into during the last term. Now he knew that he was going to come back. The whole plan, and I've said this before, but was a term of Trump, a term of communists, and a second term of Trump to finish it off. So A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, right? And Return of the Jedi, everybody gets served and everybody gets destroyed, right? Well, destroyed, but you know what I mean. You have to go through the whole movie, but they get their comeuppance is the point. And so Trump did that on purpose in order to do this, right? And now we're going to get all the information. All those people who thought they were untouchable and behaved as if they were untouchable are now being audited, right? And so what happened to those gold bars being thrown off the Titanic? Here's the new EPA leader, yeah. And he's saying, we're going to get it back. We got it back. Here we go.
Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office, and will work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. The American public deserves a more transparent and accountable government than what transpired these past 4 years. We take our obligations under the law as seriously as it gets. I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and they found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps. As President Trump has vowed, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
It's a weird way to end it. Right? Weird way to end it. For everybody who are citizens of where? Anyway, Adam says, why can't Canada do this? Yeah. Why can't we have an accounting of and a stopping of all of the waste? X22 reports Pam Bondi declares that legal action has been initiated against New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James for not upholding immigration laws. So they're going after them. And here is Pam Bondi talking about exactly that. I believe leaking ICE information. This is what she's talking about here. Here we go.
The great men and women in law enforcement standing behind me today, they must be protected. And anytime anyone leaks or tips off anything regarding a pending investigation, that jeopardizes lives. You're telling a bad guy what's about to happen. It could jeopardize the lives of all the men and women in law enforcement. We will not stand for it. We will find you. We're going to investigate it, no matter what agency it came from. We don't know for certain. We have an open investigation, so I can't talk about it in detail, but we will do everything in our power to hold you accountable, and it is a crime, and you will be prosecuted when we find you.
There you go, right? So it is a crime, and we will prosecute you. Very interesting. Here's Clandestine with an update about our BIOLABS story. I told you I'm going to keep you up to date on this one. He says, back in February 2022, I was banned from social media and smeared by the entire left-wing mainstream media for reporting on the U.S.-funded BIOLABS in Ukraine. I called representatives, senators, public figures seeking legal help. The only one to respond to me, Tulsi Gabbard. And so she was confirmed yesterday as somebody in a position to deal with that. I can't remember her exact title, but she was confirmed. And Liz is sharing this. And this is Tulsi Gabbard talking about the BIOLABS. And we'll just listen to the last minute. She's pretty clear about what's going on here. Right here.
People of Europe, the people around the world, these labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed. Instead of trying to cover this up, the Biden-Harris administration needs to work with Russia, Ukraine, NATO, the UN to immediately implement a ceasefire for all military action in the vicinity of these labs until they're secured and these pathogens are destroyed. Now, in addition to all this, the U.S. funds around 300 biolabs around the world who are engaging in dangerous research, including gain of function, similar to the lab in Wuhan, where COVID-19 may have originated from. Now, after realizing how dangerous and vulnerable these labs are, they should have all been shut down 2 years ago, but they haven't.
All right, so she's been confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. So
Now,
that's a pretty big deal, and that is a position to actually deal with this in an official kind of way. So we'll see where that's going to happen, where that's going to go. Here is Space Shot, and they say RFK Jr. is confirmed as HHS Secretary with a vote of 53-47. Sound familiar? 53-47. Yep, very, very interesting. Those who know, know. Autism Capital says, today we learned that the federal employees ride tricycles around the limestone caves to fetch the government employee retirement documents. What in the Willy Wonka Hobbit is going on here? Yeah, this is what they actually bicycle around in their 1950s paper filing system. It's a paper database that is run by computers, and we could do that on a laptop much easier. Really, honestly. And like maybe one or two servers, but you wouldn't need much more than that. And it would modernize the retirement thing. But this is crazy. And they do stuff like this to say, oh, it's just innocent. Like, oh, it's just an antiquated system. And so the antiquated system that we don't want to modernize, limits things, but everybody likes it. It's quaint. It's quaint. Canada has a payment system that doesn't work. And we have for over a decade, at least. Like, when was it brought in? 2012, I think. Doesn't work, pays people, doesn't pay people. There's all reconciliation. They don't know what to do about it. Could you do that in a business? No, nope. But they can, right? The government can. So weird. Real AF Patriots highlights this. Carolyn Levitt puts fake news on blast for their constitutional crisis. So on the news, they're saying constitutional crisis a lot, and there isn't actually a constitutional crisis in the administrative branch, she says. Here we go.
Before I take questions, I would like to address an extremely dishonest narrative that we've seen emerging over the past few days. Many outlets in this room have been fear-mongering the American people into believing there is a constitutional crisis taking place here at the White House. I've been hearing those words a lot lately. But in fact, the real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority. We believe these judges are acting as judicial activists rather than honest arbiters of the law. And they have issued at least 12 injunctions against this administration in the past 14 days, often without citing any evidence or grounds for their lawsuits. This is part of a larger concerted effort by Democrat activists and nothing more than the continuation of the weaponization of justice against President Trump. Quick news flash to these liberal judges who are supporting their obstructionist efforts. 77 million Americans voted to elect this president. And each injunction is an abuse of the rule of law and an attempt to thwart the will of the people. As the president clearly stated in the Oval Office yesterday, we will comply with the law in the courts, but we will also continue to seek every legal remedy to ultimately overturn these radical injunctions and ensure President Trump's policies can be enacted.
There you go. So we will comply with the courts, but we will also put pressure on these radical activists, et cetera, et cetera. Very interesting stuff. Let's talk about tariffs. And Canada guy says, Trudeau selected an RCMP official as fentanyl borders are. Kevin Brosseau, no military job to coordinate operations, nothing to deal with CCP and cartels, organized crime and money laundering in banks, ports and border insecure, failure. So people are tagging Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Like, Canada's not listening, guys. Like, Canada guy is tagging Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Donald Trump, Canada's not listening. No, they're not listening. We can tell. If we know, Trump knows. If we know somebody's saying, Trump's saying, listen, is Canada taking this seriously yet? And somebody says, no, sir. Like, that's it. That's what it is. There's maybe a light on his desk. Is Canada taking this seriously yet? It has not moved from red. Green is when they start taking it seriously. Okay. Is Canada taking this seriously? Not yet. Some of the premiers are taking this seriously. Stevens says they're taking it so seriously, they're all leaving the country. All of the premiers went to the United States to talk to Trump. Justin Trudeau went to a conference about AI in France. So weird, right? Super duper weird. Anyway, Stephen says, today is the first day in Canada's history that the Prime Minister and every Premier is out of the country at the same time. Quick, let's change the locks and leave their shit at the border before they get back. Get out, stay out, don't you come back. Here is Ross, and he's talking about Robert Fife's report. The premiers meet with White House officials in frank discussion about the border. Ooh, right? Like that sounds like it's going to be very progressy, right? And Ross says, story fails to include top White House officials basically said, piss off and listen to what Trump has said. Here is the response afterwards. Actually, I think it's more funny if we understand what they say. Colin DeMello reports, BC Premier Dave Eby says premiers had a frank conversation with Trump administration officials about the 51st state comments and stressed it's a non-starter. Eby says the two representatives, Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair and Director of Presidential Personnel Sergio Gore, agreed to share a few items with Trump, willingness to engage, work on key areas of engagement. Canada would never be the 51st state. And so James Blair, who was name dropped by Colin here, says, pleasant meeting with the premiers. To be clear, we never agreed that Canada would not be the 51st state. We only agreed to share Premier Eby's comments. Further, we said the best way to understand President Trump's position is to take what he says at face value. And then he tagged Sergio in there. I'm going to follow Sergio there. Do I follow James? I'll follow James as well. That'd be good. So very, very interesting if you ask me. And now here is the response. This is the Deputy Prime Minister, everything else minister too, right? Did he actually officially take, I don't know if LeBlanc actually officially took the title of Deputy Prime Minister, or if that's blank now and he's just the Finance Minister and we have no Deputy Prime Minister. That'd be interesting. Who's in charge if the Deputy Prime Minister doesn't exist and the Prime Minister's out of the country? Who's just the bureaucracy, the PMO? Weird. Anyway, here is Dominic LeBlanc.
You were very optimistic this morning when you talked about this meeting with Trump officials. How was it? Are you still optimistic?
I think it was a very constructive and positive conversation. Howard Lutnick was there. The National Economic Advisor to President Trump was also there. We started the conversation by discussing our shared priorities around border security and the fight against fentanyl. We took stock of the good work that has been done around illegal migration. We spoke about the appointment of our fentanyl czar, who will be in Washington in a few days. So we believe that the national security interest around border integrity and the common fight against fentanyl is in a positive lane, but we're going to continue to do that work. They described to us the process by which they're reviewing these metrics. So I'm optimistic in that context, but we also agreed to continue the conversations and to be in touch over the next number of days.
What did you learn about what the Trump administration is looking for? Right now you're facing three separate sort of tariff threats. The review in April, you're facing the steel and aluminum, and the March 4th border related. What have you learned that's in terms of what's new from what they want from you two? Well, not just you two, but from Canada.
Yeah, so maybe the ambassador will add something. I think we have a clear understanding in terms of the March 4th deadline, the conversations of last week around fentanyl and border integrity. We, as I say, reiterated the common progress that we've made together, and that work is ongoing and is expedited.
Yeah, whatever. Here is Dave Eby. He seems cold. I guess it's pretty cold out in Washington these days. Here's Dave Eby.
I think the dominant impression is that it was a very significant day at the White House, and yet they still sent two senior reps to meet with us. It was a good conversation. I thought it was constructive. There were some very frank moments across the table, and they urged us to take the president at his word and so we will certainly do that.
Do you feel that the tariffs are coming are inevitable when you say take the president at his word?
Well, when he talks about his concern about the border, about issues of fentanyl, the need for us to work on those things, that we should take that very seriously. That the engagement that he's having is about ensuring that the United States is respected and not taken advantage of in terms of trade and relations around the world, and that we should see things through that lens, and so we shall. I think the dom.
So there you go. We'll see them the way Trump sees them, because if we don't, well, the shit's going to hit the fan. Yeah, here we go. Here's Premier Ford.
A harder stance earlier on when this first happened, talking about shutting off their electricity and all that. Are you finding that you're taking more of a diplomatic approach now that you're down here in D.C.?
Well, I think both sides have to take a diplomatic approach. They have to listen. The worst thing that could happen to American citizens and Canadian citizens, that it turns out to a full-out tariff war. It'd be terrible. Both sides would get hurt. People would be getting laid off at their jobs. And we just want to make sure we inform the people of the U.S. how serious this really is.
Mayor, you had a harder stance earlier on when this first happened.
He didn't really answer the question, did he? He kind of dodged it. It's very serious. Well, yeah. You threatening to turn off the lights of our biggest trading partner is pretty serious there, Doug. Eleanor says, Dave Eby continues to use your tax dollars to fund drug trafficking that is killing British Columbians and enriching organized crime. Shut down the destructive drug experiment and hold everyone who pushed it accountable. Hundreds of pills seized and bust outside the pharmacy in Prince George, British Columbia. That's February 12th. So today is the 13th. So they're at least actually trying to stop these things from happening now. They're actually busting these things instead of just allowing it to continue. So that's interesting. So here's the James Blair tweet where he says, pleasant meeting, but we never said that Canada wouldn't be the 51st state. We just said that we'd tell Trump you said so. So it doesn't sound like they're convinced. Holly Doan says, Fed grants Canada border new powers, so the CBSA, new powers to cancel temporary visas for suspicious foreigners considered likely to remain in Canada illegally, follows 2024 admission by Immigration Canada that it lost track of 500,000 foreigners. So, I mean, yeah, that's a lot of people to lose track of, and it's terrible that they're still in charge. I mean, that the Immigration Canada is still in charge of running this whole thing, because the people who are losing millions of people they don't care. So it's very, very frustrating. Here is not Colin, Brian Lilly. He says, every American politician you speak to in Washington, even Canada's friends, say dairy is a problem. They don't want to get rid of supply management, but they do want access. I want to get rid of supply management. Australia can get rid of supply management. We can get rid of supply management. So I asked Canada's premiers, says Brian, if they would negotiate on dairy. One premier said, absolutely not. It's Quebec. Quebec said absolutely not. Here is the New Brunswick premier starting off the answer, though. Here we go.
Dairy, even friends of Canada down here raise the issue of dairy every time. Are any of the premiers, yourself included, willing to start talking about dairy and not getting rid of supply management, because none of them say that, but they do say we're too restrictive. So if we've got to ask for something, are we willing to give anything on their biggest irritant?
Well, the place to have those conversations is at the table in a review of the USMCA and a reconsideration of that agreement, because that's really where the last conversation ended and where we need to pick it back up to see what that negotiation is going to look like and what concessions are going to be made on both sides.
President Trump has said that the federal response...
No, I just want to say a few words on dairy. In Quebec, we are against changing the management of the offer. The reason why we have that is to protect our regions, all right? So we don't give any subsidy to milk producers. So the only thing we do is we manage the offer, and it's a way to protect small farms in all the regions. So for us, it's not negotiable.
For us, it's not negotiable. Okay, thanks, Quebec. Can we have a pipeline? No? Oh, all right. Maybe we should deal with the real problem here. June. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful